Welcome to Magical Stories for Sleep, where the night is quiet, the sea keeps its old secrets, and every story is meant to slow your thoughts and soften your breathing. Tonight's tale is based on the Morgan legend, Morgan le Fay, the witch in some songs, the healer in others, always more complicated than the world admits. Let the firelight in your mind settle. Let the wind in the trees carry the rest. The story begins now. Morgan's Daughter, Part 1, Salt and Stone. Seren wakes to smoke that isn't there. The dream clings to her like wet cloth, persistent and suffocating. Screams threading through stone corridors. A golden crown melding into someone's skull, the metal running like water, like blood, and beneath it all, woven through the terror, a voice calling her name from somewhere impossibly far away, as if someone is shouting from the bottom of a well or across a vast ocean. She sits up in the darkness of her chamber, heart hammering against ribs, and presses her palms flat against the cold stone floor to remember where she is, to anchor herself in what's real. The tower. Always the tower. Her hands are shaking. This is the 5th night this week. The dream has come, and each time it grows sharper, more insistent, more vivid, like something trying to claw its way from sleep into waking, like a message she can't quite read. She tastes ash on her tongue, though no fire burns in her hearth. The sensation makes her want to gag, makes her wonder if she's going mad, if spending 20 years in isolation has finally broken something essential inside her mind. Outside her narrow window, the first pale light of dawn begins to silver the edges of the sea, and she watches it come with relief that borders on desperation. The gulls announce morning before the sun does, their cries sharp and insistent. Seren rises and moves through the familiar ritual of beginning. The movements so practiced they require no thought, bare feet on cold stone. The shock of it pulling her fully into her body, away from dream smoke and phantom screams and the lingering taste of ash. She wraps herself in wool, rough against her skin, grounding. She descends the spiral stairs, each step worn smooth by 20 years of her mother's footfalls and now hers. The stone hollowed slightly in the center where countless feet have passed. The tower stands alone on a cliff where land meets endless water. No village within sight. No road leading to the door. Just wind, salt, air that stings the lungs. And the constant conversation between wave and rock far below, a rhythm so familiar it's become the heartbeat of her life. Seren has lived here since she can remember. Since, always, really, because the memories before the tower are few and soft as mist. Fragmentary, uncertain. She's not sure if they're real or if she invented them to fill the emptiness. She lights the morning fire with a whispered word, watches flame bloom obedient from her fingertips, orange and gold and alive. The magic comes as easily as breathing now. Her mother taught her that first, before letters, before numbers, before anything else, how to coal fire without flint, how to make light bow to will, how to reach into the fabric of the world and pull gently until reality shifts to accommodate desire. The workroom waits upstairs, shelves heavy with books she's read 3 times each, their spines cracked and familiar as old friends. Jars of dried herbs, whose names she knows in 3 languages, line the walls. Mugwort for visions, wormwood for boundaries, yarrow for courage and protection. Rosemary for remembrance. Neat rows of mortars and pestles arranged by size, by material, by purpose. Everything in its place, everything predictable. She moves to the window and stares out at the gray-green sea, at the way the morning light catches on the waves, at the birds wheeling overhead, and for just a moment, so brief, she almost doesn't catch it. She feels the edges of her world pressing close, like a hand cupped gently around a candle flame. Protective, yes, but also suffocating. Small. Her world is small. The thought arrives unbidden, and she pushes it away quickly, the way you'd push away the knowledge of a coming storm, the way you'd refuse to acknowledge the first drops of rain even as they fall on your face. She doesn't want to think about smallness. She doesn't want to wonder what lies beyond the horizon, beyond the reach of her mother's careful control. But the thought has taken root now, and thoughts like that are hard to kill once they start growing. Her mother arrives, as she always does, silently, completely, as though she materialized from air itself, as though the tower simply exhaled her into being. Morgan le Fay moves through the world like water moves through stone. Inevitable, patient, wearing away resistance so slowly you don't notice until the shape of things has changed entirely, until the landscape has been remade in her image. She sets bread and honey on the table, pours tea that steams with herbs Seren can't quite identify, something bitter underneath the sweetness, and settles into her chair with the particular quality of attention that makes Seren feel both seen and studied, like a specimen, like something being measured against an invisible standard. You dreamed again, not a question. Her mother's voice is low, certain, the voice of someone who has never doubted her own knowing, who moves through life as if she can see threads of fate that others miss. Seren wraps her hands around the warm cup, feels the heat seep into her palms, and nods. The same one. The crown. The fire. It's getting louder somehow, like it's trying to tell me something, but I can't understand the language. Like someone is shouting instructions, but the words are in a tongue I've never learned. Morgan's dark eyes, gray as winter sea, sharp as obsidian, fix on her daughter's face. She doesn't blink. The visions are getting stronger because you're ready. The sight doesn't come gently. It comes when it's needed, when the world demands that you see what others cannot. Ready for what? The question hangs in the salt-thick air between them, heavy with implications neither of them wants to name. Morgan lifts her tea, drinks slowly, deliberately, and Seren recognizes the tactic. Her mother uses silence the way other people use walls, as barrier, as weapon, as tool for shaping conversations into the form she desires. When Morgan finally speaks, her words are measured, deliberate, each one placed like a stone in a careful path. You'll know soon enough. But there's something else beneath the calm, something Seren can feel even if she can't name it. She feels it the way she feels weather changing, the way she knows when the tide is turning even when she can't see the shore, an instinct written into her bones. Her mother is watching her with an expression that mingles pride and something hungrier, something that makes Seren think of knives being sharpened in darkness, of weapons being prepared for battles not yet declared. Mother Seren leans forward, sets her cup down with a soft click. "What aren't you telling me?" Morgan's mouth curves, not quite a smile, more like the memory of one, like something that once knew joy but has forgotten how it felt. Eat your breakfast, daughter. We have work to do." And just like that, the moment closes. The door slams shut. And Seren is left holding questions that have no answers, at least not yet. At least not until her mother decides the time is right. The workroom is Seren's favorite place in the tower. Perhaps her favorite place in the world. Though her world, she's beginning to suspect, is not very large. Here the walls are lined floor to ceiling with shelves that hold wonders. Grimm was bound in leather so old it's gone black and soft. Their pages covered in scripts that shift and rearrange themselves when you're not looking directly at them, as if the words are alive, as if they're hiding from casual observation. Jars of powdered bone and dried roses that somehow never wilt, their petals holding color years after cutting, defying nature through magic she doesn't fully understand. Bundles of herbs hung from the rafters, drying in the perpetual half-light, filling the air with scents both familiar and strange. The air itself smells of ink and smoke and growing things even in the dead of winter. As if seasons don't quite reach this room, as if time moves differently here. Seren has spent years in this space, learning the language of root and stone, memorizing the correspondences between star and herb, understanding how intention shapes reality when channeled through will and word and the right combination of elements. Her mother taught her all of it, patient when it mattered, exacting always, never satisfied with almost try, with good enough, with anything less than perfection. Magic, Morgan told her once, her hands moving over ingredients with the precision of a surgeon, is not about power, it's about precision. Anyone can break a thing. Anyone can destroy. Art is in the shaping, in the control, in knowing exactly how much force to apply and where and when. Today Morgan pulls a particular grimoire from the shelf, one Seren has never been allowed to touch, has been explicitly forbidden from even looking at too closely. The cover is unmarked, plain black leather, but something about it makes the hair on Seren's arms stand up, makes her skin prickle with warning, the way lightning makes the air taste sharp and metallic before it strikes. Today you learn binding. Morgan opens the book to a page marked with a raven's feather, the spine cracking slightly, releasing the smell of old parchment and something darker underneath. Not binding an object to a place, not even binding a spirit to a circle, binding a will to your own. Seren's stomach drops. The words land like stones in cold water, sinking fast. You mean controlling someone? I mean protecting yourself when words and boundaries fail. Morgan's tone is matter-of-fact, the way she might discuss preserving fruit or predicting weather, as if what she's describing is simply practical magic, nothing more. The world is dangerous, Seren. Men with power abuse it. Those without magic will fear what you can do and try to destroy you for it. You need every tool, every weapon, every defense. But taking someone's will, the protest dies on Seren's lips before she can fully form it, is sometimes the only way to survive. Morgan's eyes pin her in place, hold her motionless. Do you think gentleness saved the priestesses when the Christians came burning? Do you think mercy protected the wise women when they were dragged to stakes and set alight while crowds cheered? The words land like blows, each one a punch to the gut. Seren has heard these stories before. whispered in the dark of winter nights when the wind howled around the tower and the fire burned low. The burning times, the old ways driven into hiding, the sacred groves cut down and built over with cold stone churches. Her mother speaks of them like personal wounds, like scars she still tends, like grief that hasn't healed despite the passage of years. Now, Morgan gestures to the open grimoire, and the command in her voice is absolute. Read. The spell is written in Old Tongue, the language of before, when magic moved openly through the world and the veil between seen and unseen was thin as gauze, when humans and spirits walked together and the boundaries between realms were suggestions rather than walls. Seren's eyes trace the words. Some she knows, has studied, has practiced until they sit comfortable in her mouth. Some she has to intuit from context and the shape they make in her mouth when she whispers them, from the way they feel against her teeth and tongue. Morgan stands behind her, hands folded, patient, waiting with the stillness of stone. I'll need a focus. Seren says it though she already knows what her mother will hand her, has known since the moment the book was opened. A small carved stone, smooth and black as midnight, with a spiral etched deep into its surface. The spiral is older than language, older perhaps than humanity itself. The pattern that appears everywhere in nature, in shells pulled from the sea, in the curl of fern fronds in spring, in the way water drains from the earth, in the way storms form over open ocean. The symbol of return, of cycles, of things being drawn inward to the center, pulled toward some inevitable conclusion. She holds the stone and it's cold in her palm, so cold it almost burns, and she begins to speak the spell. The words come easily, too easily, as if some part of her already knew them, as if they'd been sleeping in her blood waiting for permission to wake, as if her mother had planted them there years ago and they're only now flowering. Her voice deepens, takes on resonance that doesn't quite sound like her own anymore, and the air in the workroom begins to thicken like honey, viscous and heavy. She feels power gathering, coiling around her intention like a snake preparing to strike, and then the moment arrives. The stone grows hot in her palm, burning now instead of cold, the sensation so intense she nearly drops it. The air cracks like ice breaking under weight. For a split second, every candle flame in the room bends toward her as if she's become a gravity well, as if she's become the center around which all things orbit, pulling even light into her sphere. Then the spell completes, seals, settles, silence crashes down like a wave. Morgan makes a sound, soft, satisfied, almost pleased, the sound of someone watching a plan unfold exactly as intended. Seren stares at the stone in her hand, at her own fingers curved around it, and feels suddenly, violently sick. The spell worked. She knows it worked because she can feel the shape of what it does, can sense the architecture of the magic, the way it would sink into someone's mind like roots into soil, wrapping around will and choice and desire, until there's no difference between what they want and what she commands, until they become nothing more than extensions of her intention. Mother, her voice comes out smaller than she means it to, thin and frightened. This could destroy someone's mind. This could make them into nothing but an echo of me, a hollow thing wearing the shape of a person. Morgan steps forward, cups Seren's face in both hands. The touch is tender, fierce, possessive, all at once. Yes, that's exactly why you must master it, so that when the moment comes, you don't hesitate, you don't falter, you don't let doubt or mercy or weakness make you vulnerable when what moment comes. But Morgan only smiles, sharp and sad and certain, and releases her daughter's face. The smile doesn't reach her eyes, hasn't reached her eyes in a long time. Soon, my darling, very soon. And Seren is left standing there with the stone cooling in her palm and the taste of the spell still bitter on her tongue, wondering what her mother has made her into, wondering if she was always meant to be a weapon or if she's been shaped into one slowly, carefully, over years of patient manipulation disguised as love. The knock comes as Seren is trying to settle her breathing, trying to forget the feeling of that spell crackling through her bones like lightning looking for ground, trying to convince herself that learning dark magic doesn't make her dark, that knowledge is neutral and only use gives it meaning. Morgan straightens immediately, her whole demeanor shifting like water changing state. The intensity drains from her face, replaced by something softer, more approachable, the mask she wears for the world. When she opens the door, it's with the expression of a healer interrupted mid-work, patient but purposeful, kind but busy. A fisherman stands in the doorway, weather-worn and apologetic, cap clutched in both hands, bleeding from a gash across his forearm, the blood dripping steadily onto the stone. Begging pardon, Lady Morgan. Caught it on a hook, won't stop bleeding proper. Wife said you could help. Said you're the only one who knows the old healing ways. Of course. Morgan's voice is warm now, human, maternal. Nothing like the cold certainty she uses with Seren. Nothing like the woman who was teaching mind-breaking magic moments ago. Come in, sit there by the fire. Let me see what we're working with. Seren watches her mother work, fascinated and disturbed in equal measure. Morgan cleans the wound with practiced hands, movements efficient and gentle, murmuring small charms over needle and thread, old words of healing that predate Christianity, that connect to the deep magic of the earth itself. She stitches the flesh closed with movements both efficient and kind, each stitch placed perfectly, and the fisherman relaxes under her touch despite the pain. Starts talking to fill the silence, about his catch today, about his children growing too fast, about his wife skilled with bread, about the weather turning toward storm. Morgan listens, nods at appropriate moments, asks gentle questions that make him feel heard, feel seen, feel like he matters to someone. And Seren feels something shift inside her chest, a disorientation so profound it makes her dizzy. A doubling, a splitting. This woman who just taught her to break minds is now tending wounds with such care it makes the fisherman's eyes water with gratitude. Which one is real, or are they both real? And that's somehow worse. That's somehow more terrifying than any single truth could be. When the fisherman rises to leave, wincing slightly but grateful, he fumbles with a small pouch of coins, trying to count out payment with his good hand. Morgan waves it away before he can even offer, "Keep it." Keep it, buy your wife something nice. Bring her flowers from the market. She deserves beauty. The man's face crumples with emotion. You're too generous, lady. The stories don't do you justice. They make you sound cold and dangerous, but you're nothing but kind." He leaves, and the moment the door closes, Morgan's face returns to its usual careful blankness, as though she's slipped a mask back on, or perhaps removed one. Seren can't tell anymore. "You see?" her mother says quietly, moving to wash the blood from her hands in a basin of water that slowly turns pink. "Out there, I'm Morgan le Fay, sorceress, legend. Something to fear and whisper about. They come to me with their small hurts, and I send them away grateful, healed, owing me loyalty. They don't even realize they've given, and they never ask what else I might be capable of. They never question what else these hands might do. What else are you capable of?" Seren hears herself ask, and the question hangs heavy between them. Morgan looks at her daughter for a long moment, water dripping from her fingers, and something ancient and tired moves behind her eyes. "More than you know, less than they fear. And exactly what's necessary, nothing more, nothing less. Just what the world demands of someone who refuses to be broken by it." Evening comes soft and gray, the sun sinking into distant water, bleeding the sky through shades of gold and rose and finally purple before darkness claims it entirely. The temperature drops and the wind picks up, carrying the smell of salt and coming rain. Seren escapes to the balcony, the one place in the tower that feels almost like freedom, where the walls don't press quite so close, where she can see the curve of the world and imagine, just for a moment, that there's something beyond the horizon worth reaching toward, worth risking everything to find. Her mother joins her without invitation, without announcement, simply appearing the way she always does. She wraps a shawl around both their shoulders, pulling Seren close against the chill, the way she did when Seren was small and afraid of thunder, when the world seemed full of threats and only her mother's presence could make them bearable. For a while they stand in silence, listening to the gulls settle for the night, their cries growing sporadic, then ceasing entirely. They watch the first stars prick through the darkening sky, watch the last light fade from the western horizon, watch the world transform from day to night in that liminal space where magic lives most comfortably. Then Seren asks the question she's been carrying for years, the one that grows heavier every time she swallows it back down, every time she chooses silence over truth. Why do we live alone? Morgan doesn't answer immediately. The wind tugs at their hair, their clothes, trying to pull them toward the edge, toward the long fall to rocks and water below. Seren can hear her mother breathing, can feel the tension in her body, can sense the way she's choosing words carefully, weighing what to reveal and what to keep hidden. "Because the world would use you," Morgan says at last, and her voice is tight with something that might be fear, or might be fury, or might be both wound together until they're indistinguishable. "Destroy you, break you into pieces, and remake you into something that serves their purposes instead of your own. I won't allow it. I've seen what they do to powerful women. I've seen the stakes and the stones and the drowning chairs. I've seen what happens when magic meets fear. Or because you're hiding me from something." The words come out harder than Seren intends, sharper, carrying accusation she hadn't meant to voice but can't take back now. She's tired of soft questions that get softer answers. She's tired of the careful dance of half-truths and protective silences. She wants truth, even if truth has teeth, even if it bites, even if it draws blood. Morgan's jaw tightens, and Seren sees muscles jump beneath skin. For a heartbeat, she thinks her mother will walk away, will simply turn and leave her standing here with her questions unanswered. She's done it before, removed herself when conversations veer too close to territory she's marked as forbidden. When Seren pushes too hard against boundaries that aren't supposed to be questioned. But tonight, Morgan stays. Tonight, something in her seems to crack open just enough to let light through, to let truth escape, even if that truth is painful, even if speaking it costs something precious. Yes, the word comes out like a confession, like something torn from deep inside. I'm hiding you. From a man who takes everything beautiful and breaks it. From a world that would demand you choose between your power and your peace, between who you are and who they need you to be. From the same fate that took everything from me, that burned my life to ashes and left me with nothing but rage and the need for vengeance. Seren's heart hammers so hard she can feel it in her throat. Who? Your uncle? The word lands like a stone dropped into deep water, sending ripples outward, disturbing everything. Arthur Pendragon, High King of Britain. The name hangs in the air between them, impossible and huge, carrying the weight of legend, of history, of everything Seren has ever heard whispered in fragments. Arthur, the once and future king, the golden legend who pulled a sword from stone and united a fractured land. But hearing it now, spoken by her mother in this voice threaded with old fury and older grief, makes it real in a way she's not prepared for, strips away the romance and reveals something raw underneath. He took someone I loved. Morgan continues, and her voice drops lower, rougher, like it's scraping over broken glass inside her throat, like the words are cutting her on the way out. Killed him in front of me, made me watch, and I've spent 20 years preparing to make him pay for it. 20 years building toward this moment, this reckoning. The sea crashes far below, indifferent to human drama, to pain and loss and the need for revenge. The stars continue their slow wheel overhead, marking time that doesn't care about justice or injustice, that simply moves forward regardless of what hearts break in its passage. And you. Morgan turns to face her daughter fully, releases the shawl, and takes both Seren's hands in her own. Her grip is tight, almost painful, as if she's afraid Seren might disappear if she lets go. You, my darling girl, are the key. You're stronger than I ever was. Your power is raw and vast and barely contained. And once you learn to focus it, to channel it, to wield it with precision instead of instinct, you'll be unstoppable. And it's time, past time, that you met him, that you saw the monster behind the legend, that you understood why everything I've done, every choice I've made, every lesson I've taught has been leading to this. Seren feels the world tilt sideways, feels reality reorganizing itself around this new information. Everything she thought she understood about her small, safe life in this tower suddenly reveals itself as prologue, as preparation, as the careful construction of a weapon disguised as a daughter. She's not a person being protected. She's a tool being sharpened. What are you asking me to do? Her voice comes out barely above a whisper, afraid of the answer, afraid of what her mother's love has been hiding all these years. Morgan's smile is terrible and sad and certain all at once. I'm asking you to help me bring justice to a man who thinks himself above it, who believes his crown makes him untouchable, who has never paid for the lives he's destroyed. I'm asking you to be what I made you to be. Not my daughter. My vengeance. And despite everything, despite the fear curling cold in her belly like a living thing, despite the voice screaming somewhere deep inside that this is wrong, that something essential is being twisted beyond recognition, Seren finds herself nodding, because her mother has never lied to her, or so she believes. Because the grief in Morgan's eyes is real and raw as an open wound, bleeding years after it should have healed. Because Seren has spent her whole life learning to be powerful, and now, for the first time, someone is telling her what that power is for, is giving her purpose beyond simply existing, beyond simply surviving. When do we leave? Tomorrow. Morgan squeezes her daughter's hands once before letting go. And there's something final in the gesture. Something that feels like a door closing. Like a choice being made that can't be unmade. Pack what you need. We hide at dawn and try to sleep, though I know you won't. The dreams will be stronger tonight. They always are before great changes. They travel through a world Seren has only imagined, has only read about in books, has constructed in her mind from fragments and stories and her own desperate longing. Villages nestle in green valleys, smoke rising from chimneys and lazy spirals. Children playing in muddy streets while their mothers hang washing on lines and call warnings about staying clear of the river, about being home before dark. Fields are plowed and planted, the earth turned dark and rich, promising harvest come autumn, promising abundance, promising continuation. Everywhere, everywhere, there are people, farmers bent over hoes, merchants hawking wares, beggars sitting with palms outstretched, bards singing for their supper, families walking together, soldiers patrolling roads. The sheer overwhelming presence of humanity after years of isolation makes Seren dizzy, makes her want to stop and stare at everyone, drink in the details of how people move and speak and exist when they're not alone in towers by the sea. She stares at all of it with the wide-eyed hunger of someone who spent 20 years with books instead of people, with silence instead of song, with her mother's voice as the only human sound in her universe. And everywhere they go, at every crossroads and village gate and city wall, she sees Arthur's banners, the red dragon on white, snapping in the spring wind, bright against blue sky, hanging from watchtower, marking boundaries, claiming territory. The people don't flinch from them. They don't whisper or make warning signs when the banners pass. Some even smile, as if those banners mean safety instead of oppression, as if the name Arthur Pendragon tastes like hope instead of ash. Seren watches a child point excitedly at a passing knight bearing the dragon standard, watches the child's mother ruffle his hair affectionately and say something about the king's men keeping the roads safe. And the cognitive dissonance threatens to split her skull. "Mother," she says carefully, measuring each word, "if Arthur is a tyrant, why do the people seem so content? Why aren't they afraid? Why do they speak his name with something that sounds like gratitude?" Morgan's knuckles whiten on the reins, the only sign of her displeasure, because tyrants who are clever dress their chains in silk. Because people will love a man who gives them bread and games and the illusion of safety, even while he burns their gods and forbids their magic and slowly, methodically destroys everything that made them who they were. They don't see what he's taken from them. They're too busy being grateful for what he offers in its place. They've traded freedom for security, mystery for certainty, the wild magic of the old ways for the cold order of his new world. And they think they've won. The answer should satisfy. The logic is sound, but it doesn't. And Seren swallows her doubt like bitter medicine. Forces it down because the alternative, that her mother might be wrong. That 20 years of grief might have distorted truth into something unrecognizable. That love might have become poison without either of them noticing, is too enormous to hold, too terrifying to examine closely. They crest a hill as the day begins its slide toward evening, and there it is. Camelot, white towers rising against a sky gone gold and crimson with dying lights, banners streaming from every peak, catching the last rays of sun and glowing like they're made of fire themselves. The whole city spreads below them like something from a tale told to children before sleep, like something that shouldn't exist in the real world, like someone's dream of perfection made manifest in stone and timber. Music drifts up on the evening air. Festival music, drums and pipes, and what might be laughter carried on the wind. Seren can see hundreds, maybe thousands of people moving through streets lit by torches, celebrating something she doesn't understand, dancing and singing and being alive together in ways she's never experienced. Her breath catches in her throat. She expected darkness somehow, expected shadows and rot and decay, the physical manifestation of everything her mother described. She expected the castle to match the monster, expected visible evil, expected to feel revulsion. Instead, she finds beauty, life, joy, a place that looks like it was built to endure, to shelter, to welcome, to stand as bulwark against the chaos and darkness that always threatens to consume the world. Beside her, Morgan sits rigid in her saddle, face carved from marble, expression locked down, so tight Seren can practically see the cracks forming. "It's all illusion," she says, and her voice is hollow, scraped clean of emotion, as if feeling anything at all might shatter her completely. Under the beauty is blood, under the gold is grief. Under everything lovely and bright is the rot of what he destroyed to build this place. Never forget that. Look deeper. See past the surface. Remember what I taught you. Seren nods, but she can't look away from the city below. Can't stop watching the way the last light catches on those white walls and makes them glow like they're lit from within, like they're made of magic themselves. They descend as the sun finally sinks below the world's edge, and with each step down the hillside, Seren feels the weight of her mother's mission pressing heavier on her shoulders, feels the cursed stone her mother gave her during the binding lesson, sitting cold and patient in her pocket like a promise she's not sure she can keep, like a future she's not certain she wants. The great hall falls silent when they enter, conversation dying like candles snuffed by sudden wind. Not the silence of fear, exactly. More like the held breath before a storm, the moment when everyone recognizes something significant is happening, even if they don't yet know what, when the air itself seems to tighten with anticipation. Morgan walks forward with her head high, spine straight, every inch the sorceress from legend, power radiating from her like heat from forged fire. The crowd parts before her like water before stone, like wheat before wind, instinctive and inevitable. Seren follows in her wake, heart hammering so hard she's certain everyone can hear it. Certain it's audible over the silence, trying not to stare at the impossible wealth around her. Tapestries that must have taken years to weave. Their colors still vibrant, their stories complex and beautiful. Tables groaning under the weight of food, more food than she's seen in her entire life. Dishes she can't even name. Nobles in silks and furs she's only ever read about in books. Materials so fine they seem to shimmer in the torchlight. And at the far end of the hall, rising from a carved chair that isn't quite a throne but close enough to make the point, is a man. Arthur. He's older than Seren imagined. Lines carved deep around his eyes and mouth. Gray threading through dark hair like silver wire, but there's something in his face that makes her understand immediately why people follow him, why they speak his name with reverence, why they believe in him despite everything. Not cruelty, not coldness, not the blank authority of someone who rules through fear, just a bone-deep weariness that somehow manages to hold kindness anyway, that carries compassion despite exhaustion, the way a candle keeps burning even in the wind, the way light persists even when darkness presses close. Sister, his voice carries through the hall, warm despite the tension crackling in the air. Genuinely pleased despite the years of separation, despite everything that lies between them. You've come home at last. I'd almost given up hope. Morgan's face could be carved from ice, cold and perfect and utterly still. I've come for a reckoning. This is my daughter, Seren. Arthur's eyes shift to Seren and something in them softens immediately. Grief, maybe, or recognition, or simple human warmth. Directed at someone who isn't yet his enemy, who hasn't yet chosen sides in this war between people who once loved each other. You look like our mother, he says quietly, and there's genuine emotion in the words. Sadness for what's lost, for the past that can't be recovered. Welcome, niece. I'm glad you're here. Whatever else happens, whatever your mother has told you, know that you are welcome in this hall, at this table, in this family, and despite everything her mother has told her, despite the mission sitting heavy as stone in her pocket, despite 20 years of careful instruction and preparation, Seren feels something unexpected unfold in her chest. Wonder, confusion, doubt, because he doesn't seem like a monster. He doesn't sound like a tyrant. He doesn't move like someone drunk on power and indifferent to suffering. He seems like a man, tired, sad, trying his best with impossible choices. Human. Arthur gestures to the tables with a sweep of his arm that encompasses the whole feast. You must be tired from your journey. Please sit, eat, rest. We have much to discuss, I'm sure, and many old wounds to examine. But tonight, if you'll allow it, let us simply be family. Let us remember what we were before we became what we are. Morgan's expression doesn't change, doesn't soften, doesn't crack, but Seren feels her mother's hand find hers under cover of her cloak, feels the pressure of warning or reassurance or both, a squeeze that says stay alert, remember why we're here, don't be seduced by kindness, that might be strategy, by warmth that might be manipulation. They sit at the high table, places of honor that would have been left empty for them, clearly expected, clearly prepared for. They eat food that tastes better than anything Seren has ever known, flavors complex and rich and overwhelming after years of simple tower fare. Around them, the feast continues, resuming now that the initial shock has passed. Music and laughter and the easy warmth of people who know each other, who've built something. Morgan's daughter, Part 2. The truth unravels. Seren wakes in silk sheets to a world that feels like someone else's dream. The chamber they've given her is larger than the entire ground floor of the tower, with windows that let in actual sunlight instead of the gray filtered light she's known all her life. Tapestries cover the walls, depicting stories she half recognizes from books: Guinevere and the May Queen, the founding of the Round Table, Arthur pulling the sword. From stone, while crowds kneel in wonder, she lies there for a long moment, staring at the painted ceiling where stars and constellations have been rendered in gold leaf, and tries to reconcile this beauty with the darkness her mother described. Everything here speaks of care, of attention, of people who believe they're building something worth preserving. She rises and dresses in the simple clothes she brought from the tower, refusing the fine gowns someone left folded on a chair. She's not ready to wear their gifts. Not yet. Not until she understands what's real. The castle is already awake when she steps into the corridor. Servants move with quiet efficiency, carrying water and linens, nodding respectfully as they pass. No one seems afraid. No one flinches or averts their eyes the way people do around tyrants, around those who rule through terror. She follows the sound of voices and finds herself in a library that takes her breath away. 3 stories of books, more than she'd imagined existed in the entire world. Leather and parchment and knowledge stacked floor to ceiling. Sunlight pours through tall windows, illuminating dust motes that dance like tiny stars. She moves along the shelves in a daze, fingers trailing over spines, reading titles in Latin and Greek and languages she doesn't recognize. And then she finds the histories, Chronicles of Britain, the reign of Arthur Pendragon. She pulls one down, its leather worn smooth by many hands, and begins to read. The words are not what she expected. They speak of Arthur as peacemaker, as the man who united warring kingdoms, who stopped the Saxon advance, who built roads and established laws that protected the weak from the strong. But there are other passages too, darker ones. References to Morgan le Fay appear like shadows between the lines. Sorceress, traitor, attempted regicide. The words sting, even though Seren doesn't fully understand them yet. But there are other descriptions as well, earlier ones. Morgan, who saved Arthur's life when he was a boy. Morgan, who advised him in his first years as king. Morgan, who was once called the wisest woman in Britain. She reads about how that changed, how the trust turned to enmity, and finds the name Avalon woven through it all. A knight, a lover, a plot, a duel, a death. The facts are there, but they're cold, stripped of emotion, and Seren can't tell what's truth and what's the victor's version of events written by those who survived to hold the pen. She's so absorbed she doesn't hear footsteps until a voice speaks behind her. Finding what you're looking for. She turns to find a man watching her from the doorway. He's older, gray-bearded, with scars on his hands and the bearing of someone who's spent his life in armor. "So Bedivere," he says, inclining his head, "one of Arthur's oldest companions, you must be Morgan's daughter." Seren nods, suddenly aware she's been caught reading accounts of her own mother, caught trying to understand the story from the other side. I'm trying to understand what happened. Bedivere moves into the library, his steps careful, as though approaching a wild creature that might bolt. What happened is complicated. Your mother loved Arthur more than anyone in those early days. Protected him. Guide in. We all relied on her wisdom. Then why do the histories call her traitor? Bedivere sighs and settles into a chair, gesturing for Seren to sit as well. Because love and hate are closer than people want to admit. Because Arthur had to choose between the old ways and the new world he was trying to build. Because your mother couldn't forgive him for choosing the future over the past. And because Avalon died, and grief makes monsters of us all. The words sit heavy in the air between them. Seren wants to defend her mother, wants to argue, but something in Bedivere's tone stops her. He's not gloating. He's not justifying. He's simply tired. The way people get when they've lived through tragedy and survived to tell about it but take no pleasure in the telling. Was Arthur cruel to a... She has to ask, has to know if this one thing at least is as her mother described. Bedivere shakes his head slowly. Arthur was merciful to a fault. When he discovered the plot, when he learned that Avalon and Morgan planned to take his throne, he could have had them both executed without trial. Instead, he offered exile. But Avalon challenged him to single combat, demanded trial by arms. Arthur accepted because refusing would have made him look weak, would have invited every ambitious lord in Britain to test him. He fought, he won, but it broke something in him. Avalon was his friend. Morgan was his sister. That night, Arthur wept in my arms like a child. I've never seen him cry before or since. Seren feels the ground shifting under her feet, feels certainty crumbling like sand. But my mother said he murdered Avalon in cold blood. Bedivere's expression is infinitely sad. Your mother was there. She watched the man she loved die in the dust from where she stood. I'm sure that's exactly what it looked like. Grief doesn't care about fairness or protocol or the rules of honorable combat. Grief only knows that someone you love is gone and someone else is still standing, still breathing, still alive while your world ends. Arthur gave her mercy too, offered her a place at court, offered forgiveness. She refused, left in the night, and we didn't see her again for 20 years. Until now, until you. He looks at Seren with something approaching pity. I don't know what she's told you. I don't know what she's asked you to do. But Arthur isn't the monster she spent 2 decades painting him as. He's just a man who made hard choices and has lived with the consequences every day since. The conversation ends when other courtiers enter the library, their chatter breaking the spell of shared confidence. Bedivere rises, places a hand briefly on Seren's shoulder. Read what you need to read. Ask what you need to ask. But remember that history is written by those who survive, and truth is always more complicated than any single telling. He leaves, and Seren sits alone among the books, holding 2 versions of the same story, unable to reconcile them, unable to know which one is real, or if perhaps both are real, and the truth lives somewhere in the painful space between. She spends the morning in the library, reading everything she can find, trying to piece together a coherent narrative from fragments and contradictions. By midday, her head aches and her eyes burn, and she's no closer to understanding than when she started. She finds her way to the training yards, drawn by the sound of steel on steel, the shouts of men testing themselves against each other. She stands at the edge and watches Arthur's knights practice, watches the way they move with grace and power, watches the way they laugh when someone lands a good blow, watches the camaraderie that exists between them. These don't look like men serving a tyrant. They look like brothers who chose to stand together. A young knight notices her watching and approaches, pulling off his helm to reveal a friendly face sheened with sweat. "You're Morgan's daughter." Word travels fast. He grins. "I'm Gahath, newest knight at this table, and therefore assigned all the worst duties, including making sure guests don't die of boredom watching us flail at each other. Would you like to try?" He gestures to the practice swords. Seren hesitates. She's never held a sword, has never needed to. Her mother taught her other ways to fight, ways that don't require steel. But something in her wants to feel the weight of a blade, wants to understand this language of combat that seems so central to the world beyond her tower. She nods, and Gareth hands her a practice sword. Lighter than she expected, but still substantial, solid, real. He shows her the basic stance, how to hold the blade, how to move her feet. She's clumsy at first, uncertain, but magic has given her good reflexes, and she learns quickly. They spar gently, Gareth calling out advice, correcting her grip, praising when she blocks correctly. Other knights pause to watch, and she feels their attention like heat on her skin. Then, one of them calls out, "Show her what you can do with magic, my lady." We've all heard stories about Morgan le Fay. Let's see if the daughter inherited the mother's gifts. The words are friendly, but they carry weight, carry expectation. Seren looks at Gareth, uncertain, but he nods encouragingly. "Go ahead. Impress. Ooze." She takes a breath and reaches for the magic that lives beneath her skin, familiar and powerful. She whispers words her mother taught her, and the practice sword in her hand begins to glow, faint blue light running along its length. The knights murmur appreciation. Then she goes further, extends her will, and Gareth's sword rises from his hand to float in the air between them, spinning slowly, obeying her intention without her needing to touch it. The knights erupt in genuine delight, applauding, asking her to do it again, to show them more. There's no fear in their reactions, no suspicion, just the pure joy of witnessing something wondrous, something beyond the ordinary scope of their world. Seren lets the magic fade, lets the sword settle back into Gareth's hand, and feels something warm unfold in her chest. Acceptance, appreciation. These men aren't afraid of magic. They're not threatened by power they don't possess. They're simply impressed, the way anyone might be impressed by skill and artistry. "Your mother was the greatest of us once," an older knight says, stepping forward. "Sir Bedivere told me. We all learned from her. She taught us that magic wasn't something to fear, but something to respect, something to work alongside. We mourned when she left. Many of us still hope she'll find her way back to who she was before grief changed her." The words strike Seren like physical blows. Before grief changed her. The implication that her mother wasn't always what she is now, wasn't always consumed by rage and the need for vengeance. That there was a version of Morgan le Fay who laughed and taught and belonged here among these people. The training session ends, and Seren finds herself walking with Gareth through the castle gardens, still processing everything she's seen and heard. He talks easily, pointing out various plants and trees, telling stories about the knights and their exploits, making her laugh despite her confusion. Eventually he grows serious. "Your mother has every right to her grief," he says quietly. "Losing someone you love is a wound that never fully heals." But Arthur has lived with his own grief too. He lost his friend. He lost his sister. He built this kingdom, but the cost was nearly everything personal and precious to him. We follow him not because he's perfect, but because he tries every day to be better than he was the day before. That's all any of us can do, really. Seren finds Guinevere in the afternoon. The queen sitting in a solar with ladies of the court working on embroidery that depicts some scene from legend. Guinevere looks up when Seren enters, and her smile is immediate, genuine, warm. "Come, sit with us. We're always happy to have new hands and new conversation." The ladies make room and Seren settles among them. Awkward at first, unused to casual company, unused to the easy chatter of women who know each other well, but they're kind, asking gentle questions, telling stories, including her without demanding she reveal more than she's comfortable sharing. Guinevere works beside her and after a while speaks quietly, meant only for Seren's ears. "Your mother and I were friends once. Did she ever tell you that?" Seren shakes her head. Morgan has never mentioned Guinevere, except in passing. As Arthur's queen, as part of the structure of power she opposes. Guinevere smiles sadly. "We were young together. She taught me about herbs, about the old festivals, about finding power in yourself rather than in what men grant you. When she left, it felt like losing a sister. I've hoped every year that she might return. That time might have softened what happened." "What did happen?" Seren asks, unable to help herself, desperate for one more perspective, one more piece of the puzzle. Guinevere sets down her needle and looks at Seren with eyes that have seen too much, that carry their own weight of sorrow. "Arthur had to choose between honoring the old ways, the magic and mystery that your mother represented, and building a kingdom that could survive in a changing world. The Christians were coming with their one God and their absolute certainties. The Saxons were pressing at our borders. The old tribal loyalties were tearing Britain apart. Arthur tried to find a middle path, tried to preserve what he could while adapting to what was necessary. But your mother saw compromise as betrayal. When he began allowing Christian priests to preach, when he stopped openly supporting the priestesses of Avalon, when he made alliances with Christian kings, she felt he was destroying everything sacred. And she wasn't entirely wrong. We did lose things. We are still losing things, but we survived, and survival matters." Then Avalon happened. Guinevere's voice drops even lower. He and Morgan plotted to take the throne, believing they could restore the old ways if Arthur was removed. Arthur discovered it through his own spies. He could have had them both killed, should have, by any standard of kingship, and so instead he offered exile, but Avalon demanded trial by combat, and Arthur couldn't refuse without looking weak, without inviting every ambitious lord to try the same thing. So they fought, and Avalon died, and Morgan fled, and here we are 20 years later, still living in the shadow of that choice. Guinevere reaches over and takes Seren's hand. "I don't know what your mother has asked of you, but I know she's been alone with her grief for 2 decades, and grief without perspective becomes poison. Arthur made mistakes. He still makes them. But he's not evil. He's not a tyrant. He's just trying to hold together a kingdom that wants to fly apart in his hands. Trying to build something that will outlast him. Trying to be worthy of the legend. People have already started telling about him, even though he's still here. Still human. Still failing. As often as he succeeds. Seren spends the evening meal at the high table again. Her mother on one side and Arthur on the other, feeling like she's being pulled apart between opposing forces. Morgan barely eats, her attention focused entirely on Arthur, watching him like a predator watches prey, waiting for the moment to strike. Arthur tries to engage her in conversation, asking about the years since she left, about what she's been doing, about Seren's education. Morgan answers in clipped monosyllables, giving nothing, her walls impenetrable. Seren watches them both and sees the ghosts of what they were. Sees the love that must have existed once between siblings who protected each other. Sees how completely it's been consumed by betrayal and grief and the impossible weight of choices neither of them wanted to make. After the meal, Morgan pulls Seren aside into a private alcove where they can't be overheard. You've been spending time with them? With Arthur's people. I've seen you laughing with his knights, sitting with his queen. Seren tries to explain. I'm trying to understand, Mother. I'm trying to see all sides. Morgan's face goes cold, colder than Seren has ever seen it. There are no other sides. There is only what happened. He killed the man I loved. He destroyed the old ways. He chose power over family. Everything else is justification. Is the winner rewriting history to make himself look noble? Don't let them seduce you with their pretty words and their comfortable castle and their false warmth. Remember why we're here. But what if they're not lying? The words escape before Seren can stop them, before she can think better of speaking doubt aloud. What if Arthur made hard choices, but not evil ones? What if Avalon really did challenge him, and it really was an horrible combat? What if you're remembering it through the lens of grief, and it's changed the shape of what actually happened? Morgan's hand connects with Seren's cheek before she registers the movement, a sharp crack that echoes in the small space. The shock of it is worse than the pain. Her mother has never struck her, has never raised a hand in anger, has always been controlled and careful and precise. Now Morgan stands there breathing hard, hands still raised, looking as shocked as Seren feels. Then her face closes down, becomes a mask of ice. If you believe them over me, then you're not my daughter. You're just another tool they've turned against me. Another weapon pointed at my heart. I thought you were strong enough. I thought you understood what I've sacrificed for you, how I've protected you, what I've made you into. But you're weak, just like your father was weak, just like everyone is weak when it matters. Seren touches her burning cheek and feels tears she refuses to shed. Who was my father? She's never asked before, has accepted her mother's silence on the subject, but now she needs to know, needs to understand all the pieces of this puzzle. Morgan's laugh is bitter. A mistake? A moment of weakness when I thought I could have something normal, something simple. He was kind and gentle and utterly ordinary. I sent him away before you were born because I knew he'd make you soft, would teach you to compromise and forgive and see all sides. I needed you hard. I needed you sharp. I needed you to be the blade. I couldn't be myself anymore. And instead, you've become exactly what I feared. You've become someone who questions, who doubts, who sees complexity, where there should only be clarity. The words cut deeper than any physical blow could. Seren realizes in this moment that her mother doesn't see her as a person, has never seen her as a person, only as an extension of will, a tool shaped for a specific purpose, a weapon that's now refusing to strike. She goes to bed that night in her beautiful borrowed room and lies awake, staring at the ceiling and feeling her world crack apart. Everything she thought she knew is dissolving. Her mother, who she trusted absolutely, is revealed as someone capable of violence, of seeing her own daughter as a possession rather than a person. Arthur, who she was taught to hate, seems kind and weary and genuinely remorseful about past choices. The people here aren't afraid. They're not oppressed. They're building something together, flawed and imperfect, but real and alive. And Seren is caught in the center with a cursed stone in her pocket, a binding spell in her memory, and a choice looming that she's not ready to make. Tomorrow, her mother said days ago, the real work begins. But what if the real work isn't vengeance? What if it's truth? What if it's finding a way to see past grief to what actually is, rather than what pain has painted over reality? She thinks about the binding spell, about how easily it came to her, about the power she holds to break someone's mind and remake it according to her will. She thinks about her mother's hands healing a fisherman's wound with such tenderness, while teaching her daughter to destroy with the same magic. She thinks about Arthur's tired eyes and the way he spoke her mother's name with such sadness, not anger, just loss and the wish that things could have been different. She thinks about Bedivere saying grief makes monsters of us all. She thinks about Guinevere's gentle insistence that Arthur isn't evil, just human and trying his best with impossible choices. She thinks about the knights who weren't afraid of her magic but delighted by it, who told stories of her mother as someone they admired and missed. And she thinks about the truth that's becoming unavoidable, the one she doesn't want to face but can't escape. Her mother is wrong, not about the pain, that's real, not about the loss, that's undeniable, but about Arthur, about what happened, about what vengeance will accomplish. Grief has poisoned her mother's memory, has turned a complicated tragedy into a simple story of villain and victim, has made her unable to see that she helped create the situation that destroyed what she loved. The plot to take the throne wasn't just a Collins idea. Morgan participated. Arthur responded. Avalon died, and instead of accepting her own role in the tragedy, Morgan has spent 20 years building a story where she's blameless, and Arthur is monster and vengeance is justice. But it's not justice, it's just more pain, more loss, more grief spreading outward in endless circles. Seren rises before dawn and walks through the silent castle to Arthur's private solaire, where she knows he sits most mornings working through papers and decisions before the day's demands begin. She nods softly and his voice calls her in. Surprised but not displeased, he sets down his pen and looks at her with those tired, kind eyes. Couldn't sleep? She shakes her head and moves to stand by the window where first light is just beginning to gray the sky. I need to know something. I need you to tell me the absolute truth, not the version that makes you look good, not the political answer, just truth. Arthur nods slowly. I'll try. What do you want to know? Did you love my mother? The question surprises him. She can see it in his face, but he doesn't deflect. Yes, more than I can put into words. She was my protector when I was young and terrified of the crown that had fallen on my shoulders. She was my advisor when I didn't know how to rule. She was my sister, my friend, my conscience. Losing her was losing half of myself. Do you regret killing Avalon? His face twists with old pain. Every day. He was my friend too. But he challenged me in front of the entire court. If I'd refused, if I'd shown weakness, the kingdom would have torn itself apart. Every ambitious lord would have tested me. The Saxons would have seen opportunity. Everything we'd built would have crumbled. So I fought him and I killed him. And it was the right choice for the kingdom and the worst moment of my life. Both things are true. I don't expect your mother to forgive me. I don't expect you to either. But I need you to understand that it wasn't cruelty. It was necessity. And necessity breaks you in ways that cruelty never could. Seren feels something settle in her chest. Some final piece clicking into place. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out the cursed stone. The one carved with spirals. The one prepared for the binding spell that would destroy Arthur's mind slowly and leave him a living corpse. She holds it out on her palm. My mother prepared this. She taught me the spell to activate it. I was supposed to use it at tonight's feast, to drop it in your wine, to destroy you the way she believes you destroyed her. Arthur looks at the stone but doesn't flinch, doesn't call guards, doesn't react with fear or anger. He just nods slowly. That sounds like Morgan. Elegant, painful, precise. Will you use it? Seren closes her fist around the stone and meets his eyes. No, because vengeance isn't justice, because grief isn't truth, because you're not the monster she's made you into in her mind over 20 years of isolation and pain. You're just a man who made terrible choices for reasons that made sense at the time. And she's just a woman who can't forgive herself for her role in what happened, so she's put all the blame on you instead. And I refuse to be the weapon she spent 20 years sharpening because I'm not a weapon. I'm a person, and I choose truth over loyalty, even when truth hurts, even when it costs me everything. Arthur's expression is unreadable for a long moment. Then he smiles, sad and proud all at once. You're braver than either of us ever were. What will you do now? Seren takes a breath. I'm going to tell my mother I won't help her. I'm going to offer her the chance to stay here, to heal, to find her way past the grief to something resembling peace. And when she refuses, because she will refuse, I'm going to leave. Not with her, alone. I'm going to find my own path, my own truth, my own purpose that isn't about anyone else's pain. Arthur nods slowly. That's wise. But know that you're always welcome here if you change your mind. Not as a tool, not as a pawn in some old conflict, just as yourself. A Seren who has power and wisdom enough to choose peace when vengeance is easier. She leaves the solar as the sun breaks over the horizon, turning the sky pink and gold. And she feels lighter than she has in years, despite knowing what's coming, despite knowing that the confrontation with her mother will be the hardest thing she's ever done. But it's also necessary, because love that demands you become less than you are isn't love, because family that requires you to carry their pain as your own isn't family, because she deserves to be more than the sum of her mother's grief and rage. She deserves to be herself, whoever that might turn out to be. And that means walking away from everything she's known towards something unknown and terrifying and absolutely essential. Morgan's Daughter, Part 3. The breaking the feast hall fills as evening approaches. Nobles and knights gathering for what should be a celebration but feels more like the calm before a storm breaks. Seren can feel the tension in the air, thick and electric, the way the atmosphere changes before lightning strikes. She's dressed in the simple clothes she brought from the tower, refusing again the fine gowns offered, needing to feel like herself for what's coming. The cursed stone sits heavy in her pocket still, but now it's evidence rather than weapon. Proof of what her mother intended, what she herself came so close to doing. She finds her place at the high table and waits, watching the doors, knowing her mother will make an entrance. Will time it for maximum impact the way she always does. Morgan arrives as the hall reaches its fullest, as conversation peaks and wine flows, and people relax into the evening's warmth. She walks through the great doors like a queen returning to reclaim her throne, power radiating from her in waves that make the air shimmer. She's dressed in black, in robes that seem to absorb light rather than reflect it, and her hair flows loose down her back in the old style, the way priestesses wore it before the Christians came with their veils and their insistence that women's power needed to be covered and controlled. Every eye turns to her. Conversation dies. Even the musicians fall silent, their instruments lowering as if the music itself can't exist in the presence of what she's carrying. She moves to the high table with absolute certainty, with the bearing of someone who has spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment, and takes her seat beside Seren without acknowledging anyone else in the room. Arthur rises, and the gesture brings everyone to their feet, the scrape of benches and rustle of fabric loud in the silence. He lifts his cup, and his voice carries through the hall, warm and genuine, despite the tension everyone can feel. To family, to old bonds, and the hope that time can heal what seems beyond healing. To Morgan, my sister, who has come home at last, may we find our way back to each other, or at least to understanding. The hall echoes the toast uncertainly, people drinking because their king has asked them to, but watching Morgan with wary eyes, with the memory of old stories and warnings passed down. Morgan doesn't drink. She sits with her cup untouched before her and watches Arthur with an expression that makes Seren's blood run cold. It's the look of a hunter who has finally cornered her prey, who knows the killer's moments away and is savoring the anticipation. The feast begins, but Seren can't eat. Her stomach is twisted into knots. Her mother's hand finds hers under the table, squeezes wands, and Seren knows this is the signal. This is the moment her mother has been waiting for. Now. Do it now. Drop the stone in Arthur's cup when he's distracted by conversation. Speak the words that activate the curse. Watch him drink poison disguised as wine, and know that in hours or days his mind will begin to fracture, will splinter into pieces that can never be reassembled, will leave him alive but hollow, a shell wearing a crown, destroyed from within in a way no sword could accomplish. It's elegant and terrible, and exactly the kind of revenge Morgan would devise. Precise and cruel and irrevocable. Seren pulls her hand away from her mother's. The movement is small, but Morgan feels it, understands it immediately. Her head turns slowly, and her gray eyes fix on her daughter's face, and in that look, Seren sees the exact moment her mother understands that something has changed. that her weapon has developed a will of its own, that the tool she spent 20 years shaping has chosen to break rather than be used. What are you doing? The words are barely whispered, but they carry the weight of mountains, of oceans, of all the grief and rage that Morgan has been carrying since Avalon died in the dust and her world shattered. Seren takes a breath and finds her voice, finds her courage, finds the strength to do what she knows will destroy the only relationship she's ever had, but is necessary anyway, is essential, is the only way forward that doesn't make her complicit in creating more pain. I can't do this, Mother. I won't do this. The words fall into the space between them like stones into still water, sending ripples outward, disturbing everything. Morgan's face goes very still, very cold, carved from ice and ancient rage. You're refusing me after everything I've done for you, everything I've taught you, everything I've sacrificed to make you strong enough for this moment. You're refusing. It's not a question. It's an accusation, a condemnation, a severing. Seren nods and feels tears burning behind her eyes, but refuses to let them fall. Refuses to show weakness even though her heart is breaking. Even though she's losing the person who raised her, who taught her everything, who loved her in the only way she knew how, even if that love was poisoned by grief and the need for vengeance. Arthur made terrible choices, but he's not the monster you've made him into. Avalon died in honorable combat that he demanded, not murder. You plotted to take the throne, and Arthur responded, and it all went wrong, and you can't forgive yourself, so you've spent 20 years blaming him instead. And I won't be part of it. I won't help you destroy someone who's trying his best with impossible situations. Just because you can't let go of pain that happened 2 decades ago, vengeance isn't justice. It's just more grief spreading outward, more people destroyed, more love turned to poison. I won't do it. I won't be what you made me to be. The hall has gone completely silent now. Everyone is watching, even though most of them don't understand what's happening. Can only feel the tension crackling between mother and daughter. Can sense that something is breaking that can never be repaired. Morgan stands slowly, and the movement is both elegant and terrible. Her face has gone beyond cold into something else entirely, into a blankness that's more frightening than rage would be. Then you are not my daughter. The words fall like an executioner's blade, sharp and final and irrevocable. I disown you. I cast you out. You are nothing to me. Less than nothing. You are the worst kind of betrayal. The knife in the back from the one person I trusted absolutely. I should have known. I should have seen it. You were always weak, always soft, always looking for excuses to avoid difficult choices. You're just like your father, useless and forgettable and deserving of nothing but contempt. Seren feels each word like a physical blow, but stands her ground, just steady because this is necessary, even though it hurts, even though it's tearing her apart, even though she's losing everything she's ever known. But Morgan isn't finished. She turns to Arthur and her voice rises, filling the hall with power that makes the torches flicker and the wine tremble in cups. You think you've won. You think you've turned my own daughter against me, seduced her with your pretty lies and your comfortable castle and your knights playing at honor. But you've won nothing. You're still the man who killed the one I loved. You're still the betrayer, the destroyer, the king who sold his soul for a crown. And I curse you, not with magic, since my own flesh and blood, refuses to wield it on my behalf. I curse you with words, with truth, with the certainty that everything you've built will crumble. Your round table will break, your knights will betray you. Your queen will be the instrument of your downfall. Your kingdom will tear itself apart, and your name will be remembered as a failure, as someone who reached for greatness and achieved only ashes. You will die knowing that everything you sacrificed, everyone you hurt, all the choices you made that cost you your humanity were for nothing. The words ring through the hall with the weight of prophecy, with power that transcends mere anger. People make warding signs. Someone gasps. Arthur stands slowly, and his face is gray, aged suddenly, as if Morgan's curse has stolen years from him in moments. But his voice is steady when he speaks. You have every right to your pain, Morgan. I have never denied that. I killed the man you loved, and I will carry that weight until I die. But I offered you mercy. I offered you place and purpose, and the chance to help build something worth existing. You chose exile instead. You chose to feed your grief until it consumed you. And now you've made your daughter into a weapon, and she's chosen not to strike, and you can't forgive her for having the courage you lack, the courage to break the cycle, to choose healing over harm. I'm sorry for your pain. I'm sorry for mine, but I will not apologize for surviving, for building, for trying to create something better than what came before, even when the cost was terrible. Morgan's laugh is sharp and bitter as broken glass. You speak of courage. You know nothing of courage. Courage is watching the man you love die and continuing to breathe anyway. Courage is raising a child alone while the world calls you monster and witch. Courage is spending 20 years preparing for one moment of justice and watching it slip through your fingers because your own daughter chose the enemy over her blood. But perhaps that's fitting. Perhaps it's right that I lose everything, just as I lost everything before. Perhaps the universe demands that I be stripped of all I love, over and over until there's nothing left but rage and the will to make others hurt the way I hurt. She turns to Seren, and there's something in her face now that's beyond anger, beyond grief, something closer to madness, or maybe just the kind of pain that shatters people into pieces that can't be put back together. I made you. I shaped you. I gave you everything you are, and you throw it back in my face like it means nothing. Like I mean nothing. Very well. If I cannot have justice, I'll have destruction. If I cannot punish the guilty, I'll punish everyone. She raises her hands and power begins to gather, pulling at the air, making the temperature drop until people can see their breath miss. Arthur moves, but Morgan is faster, has been preparing for this, has magic coiled and ready. The binding spell, the one she taught Seren, flows from her lips and old tongue, and suddenly Arthur staggers, his eyes going wide, his hands coming up to his head as if he can physically hold his mind together against the assault. Knights surge forward, but Morgan gestures and they freeze, held by invisible force, unable to move, unable to help, forced to watch as their king struggles against magic that's tearing at the fabric of his thoughts. Seren doesn't think. She moves on, instinct, on the magic her mother taught her, on power that's been sleeping in her blood all her life. She steps between them and throws up a shield, not physical but spiritual, a barrier of will and intention that catches Morgan's spell and stops it cold. The two magics clash in the air, visible as crackling light, as colors that shouldn't exist, as the sound of reality tearing at the seams. Arthur collapses, released from the binding, gasping as his mind snaps back into coherence. The knights find themselves able to move again, and they rush to their king, but he waves them back. Still breathing hard, still shaken, but recovering. Morgan stares at Seren with something approaching wonder mixed with fury. You would shield him. You would use what I taught you to protect the man I hate most in all the world. Seren holds the shield steady, though it's draining her, though she can feel her strength flowing out to maintain the barrier. I'm not protecting him from you. I'm protecting you from yourself. This path leads nowhere but more pain, more loss, more years of grief eating you from inside until there's nothing left but the rage. Stop, Mother. Please. Let it end here. Let the pain stop. We can find another way. We can heal instead of hurt. We can choose something better than this endless cycle of vengeance and suffering. Morgan's face twists, and for just a moment, Seren sees something else beneath the rage. Something vulnerable and terrified and heartbreakingly human. She sees her mother as she might have been without the grief, without the loss, without 20 years of isolation feeding the worst parts of herself. She sees the woman Arthur described, the sister and friend and advisor who was wise and kind and loved with her whole heart. But then the moment passes and Morgan's face hardens again, closing like a door slamming shut. You've made your choice. Now live with it. She drops her hands and the magic dissipates, leaving the air tasting of ozone and ash. She walks toward the door and the crowd parts before her like they did when she entered, but now it's not respect that moves them. It's fear and pity and the profound discomfort of witnessing something private and painful played out in public. At the threshold, she turns back one final time and looks at Seren with eyes that are empty of everything except loss. I had a daughter once. She was going to be magnificent. She was going to change the world. But that daughter died tonight, killed by kindness and weakness, and the delusion that peace is possible between those who have hurt each other so deeply. Goodbye, Seren. I hope your mercy keeps you warm when you're alone and wondering if you made the right choice. Then she's gone, vanished into the night. And Seren stands in the center of the hall with everyone staring at her and feels simultaneously lighter and heavier than she's ever felt before. Lighter because she's no longer carrying her mother's pain as her own. No longer responsible for healing wounds that happened before she was born. No longer a tool being wielded in someone else's war. But heavier because she's alone now in a way she's never been alone before. Truly orphaned, not by death, but by choice. By the decision to break free, even when breaking free meant losing everything familiar and safe. Arthur approaches slowly, moving like someone who's aged a decade in moments. He places a hand on her shoulder, and his touch is gentle, grateful, sad. Thank you. You saved my life and probably saved your mother from something she couldn't come back from. What you did took more courage than any battle I've fought. Seren shakes her head because she doesn't feel courageous. She feels shattered and lost and uncertain if she made the right choice, even though she knows she made the only choice she could live with. The feast ends early, people dispersing in uneasy clusters, whispering about what they witnessed, about Morgan's curse, about the daughter who turned against her mother to save a king. Seren finds herself walking through the castle in a daze, not really seeing where she's going, just needing to move, needing to process what just happened. She ends up in the library again, among the books, in the space where she first began to question everything she thought she knew. Guinevere finds her there hours later, sitting in darkness because she forgot to light candles, staring at nothing. The queen settles beside her without speaking, just sharing the silence, offering presents without demanding words. After a long while, Seren finally speaks. "Did I do the right thing?" Her voice is small, uncertain, nothing like the confident tone she used when confronting her mother. Guinevere considers the question seriously, doesn't offer easy comfort or quick reassurance. You did the brave thing. Whether it was the right thing, only time will tell. Your mother has spent 20 years building a story where she's the victim and Arthur is the villain and vengeance is justice. You challenged that story. You offered her the chance to see complexity, to acknowledge her own role in what happened, to choose healing over harm. She refused. That's not your fault. That's her choice and her burden to carry. But it doesn't make it hurt less. No, it doesn't. Love doesn't stop hurting just because the person we love is hurting us. That's one of the cruelest truths we learn. They sit together until dawn begins to gray the windows, and Seren feels something settle in her chest. Some acceptance of what she's lost and what she's gained. She's alone now, but not lonely. She's free now, but she has power, but no purpose except what she chooses for herself. It's terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. In the morning, Seren goes to Arthur's solar again and finds him looking as tired as she feels. Dark circles under his eyes, moving with the careful deliberation of someone who's been through an ordeal and is still processing the aftermath. She tells him her decision. "I'm leaving. Not with my mother. Not staying here. Just leaving. I need to find my own path, my own purpose, my own truth that isn't built on anyone else's pain or expectations." Arthur nods like he expected this, like he understands the need to walk away from everything and start fresh somewhere unknown. "Where will you go?" "I don't know. Maybe nowhere. Maybe everywhere." There are stories out there, aren't there? Stories about what really happened, about all the versions of truth that exist depending on who's telling it. Maybe I'll collect them. Maybe I'll become the person who tells all sides, who refuses to let any single narrative dominate, who reminds people that truth is complicated and people are complex and nothing is ever as simple as heroes and villains. Arthur smiles, and there's pride in it. Genuine warmth. That sounds like the work of a lifetime. A worthy lifetime. He reaches into a drawer and pulls out a leather pouch heavy with coins. This isn't payment. It's not a bribe to make you stay or leave or do anything except survive. It's just practical help for someone starting a journey. Take it, and know that you're always welcome here if you need shelter or rest or just someone who remembers your courage. Seren takes the pouch and feels the weight of it, literal and metaphorical. She's taking help from the man her mother hates most, accepting kindness from someone she was supposed to destroy. But that's exactly the point, isn't it? That's the whole lesson of these past days. People aren't their roles. Arthur isn't just a king or an enemy. He's a tired man trying his best. Her mother isn't just a grieving woman or a powerful sorceress. She's someone whose pain has consumed her ability to see beyond herself. And Seren isn't just a daughter or a weapon. She's herself, whoever that turns out to be. She leaves Camelot at midday, dressed in traveling clothes that Guinevere insisted she take. carrying supplies and silver and the kind of open-ended freedom that's both terrifying and thrilling. She doesn't look back at the white towers or the red dragon banners. Looking back would hurt too much, would make her question her choice, would open space for doubt that she can't afford right now. Instead, she looks forward, toward the road that winds through green fields, toward distant forests, toward the horizon that promises nothing except possibility. She thinks about her mother, somewhere out there, alone with her rage and grief and the bitter knowledge that her weapon refused to strike. She wonders if Morgan will find peace eventually, or if she'll carry the poison until it kills her. She hopes for the former, but suspects the latter. Some wounds go too deep to heal. Some pain becomes identity, and people don't know how to exist without it. But that's not Seren's burden anymore. She's chosen to set it down, to walk away, to refuse the legacy of vengeance and choose instead to build something new. She doesn't know what that will look like yet, doesn't know where she'll go or what she'll do or how she'll survive, but she knows she'll figure it out. She has power and intelligence and courage and the kind of hard-won wisdom that comes from breaking free of what you thought you had to be. That's enough. That has to be enough. The road stretches before her, empty and inviting, and she takes her first step toward a future she gets to choose for herself. Behind her, Camelot continues its work, Arthur continues his reign, and Morgan continues her exile. But ahead of her is everything else, all the stories yet to be told, all the truths yet to be discovered, all the versions of herself she hasn't met yet, and, for the first time in her life, that possibility fills her with hope instead of fear. Morgan's Daughter, Part 4. The storyteller, 5 years pass, like water flowing over stones, each day wearing away who Seren was, and revealing who she's becoming. She travels the length and breadth of Britain, from the northern reaches where the Roman wall still stands crumbling against the wild lands beyond, to the southern coasts where traders bring stories from across the narrow sea. She walks roads that Arthur's peace has made safer but not entirely safe, through villages that prosper under his rule and others that still cling to the old ways in hidden valleys where Christianity hasn't yet reached. She learns the rhythms of a traveling life, the art of reading a crowd, the skill of finding shelter and food and safety in a world that can be both generous and cruel to a woman alone. But she's never truly alone. She carries stories with her now, hundreds of them, collected from every person willing to share, woven together into a tapestry that shows the world as it actually is, rather than as any single person wants it to be. She's learned to make her living as a bard, though not the kind that sings only of heroes and glory. She tells the complicated stories, the ones with no clear villains, the ones where everyone has reasons and everyone makes choices that seem right at the time, even when they lead to tragedy. She tells the story of Arthur pulling the sword from stone, but also the story of the men who tried before him and failed and were mocked for their presumption. She tells of Guinevere's grace and wisdom, but also of the impossible pressure of being a queen who must be perfect always, who carries the weight of a kingdom's expectations and can never show weakness or doubt or simple human need. She tells of Lancelot's legendary skill, but also of the loneliness of being the best at something, of how excellence isolates as much as it elevates. And yes, she tells stories of Morgan le Fay and Arthur Pendragon, of siblings who loved each other and destroyed each other, of choices made in grief and choices made in necessity, and how sometimes there's no good option, only less terrible ones. Tonight, she's in a village whose name she'll forget by morning, one of dozens that blur together after years of traveling. The common house is warm with bodies and firelight, the smell of bread and ale and working people who've earned their rest. Children sit cross-legged at her feet, eyes wide and hungry for wonder. Adults stand at the back, arms crossed, skeptical but curious, waiting to be convinced that stopping their work to listen is worth the time. Seren has learned to read these crowds, to gauge what they need from her tonight. Sometimes they want escape, want tales of magic in distant lands and problems that aren't theirs. Sometimes they want reflection, want stories that mirror their own struggles back to them, so they feel less alone. Tonight she senses they want both, want to be transported but also seen, want magic but also truth. She settles onto a stool, takes a sip of the ale someone pressed into her hand, and lets the silence build until curiosity outweighs patience and they're truly ready to listen. Then she begins, her voice pitched to carry but not shout, intimate despite the crowd. Let me tell you about a girl who lived in a tower by the sea, who knew nothing of the world beyond salt and stone and her mother's carefully constructed truth. She had power, this girl, raw magic that could reshape reality if she learned to control it. Her mother taught her everything, loved her fiercely, prepared her for a purpose the girl didn't understand until it was almost too late. The children lean forward, already hooked. The adults shift their weight but stay, interest caught despite themselves. Seren continues, weaving the story she's told 100 times now, each telling slightly different, shaped by the audience and her own evolving understanding of what happened to her. She doesn't hide that the girl is herself. Some bards would pretend the story belongs to someone else. Happened long ago in distant lands where consequence and truth are softened by legend. But Seren has learned that power lives in vulnerability, that the stories that change people are the ones where the teller bleeds a little, shows their scars, admits their failures and fears. So she tells them about Morgan's tower, about learning magic and believing her mother, absolutely, about traveling to Camelot expecting a monster and finding a tired man instead. She tells them about the cursed stone and the binding spell and the moment she chose not to use it. Not because Arthur was innocent, but because vengeance wouldn't heal anything, would just spread more pain like poison through water. She tells them about her mother's rage and the curse and the terrible words that ended a relationship she thought would last forever. The crowd is silent now, completely absorbed, and Seren can see tears on some faces, recognition on others. These are people who know about complicated families, about loving people who hurt you, about making choices that cost you everything. When she reaches the end, the part where the girl walks away from both her mother and the king and chooses to find her own path, someone in the back speaks up. A woman's voice, rough with age and smoke. But what happened to her mother? Did she ever find peace? Did they ever speak again? The question hangs in the air, and Seren feels her throat tighten because this is the part she doesn't know yet, the part that's still being written. I don't know, she says honestly. The mother disappeared into the wild lands, into the places where the old ways still hold power. Some say she's become more legend than woman, that she walks between worlds and tends the ancient sacred sites that Christianity hasn't yet claimed. Some say she's just a broken woman, living alone, feeding her grief until it consumes her entirely. Some say she's found peace in solitude, that she's learned to let go of rage and remember love. I don't know which story is true. Maybe all of them. Maybe no. And the daughter, another voice, younger this time, a girl perhaps 15 with bright, curious eyes. What happened to her? Seren smiles and gestures to herself. She travels. She collects stories. She learns that truth is never simple and people are never just one thing. She discovers that breaking free from what you're expected to be is terrifying and necessary and worth the cost. She finds that you can love someone deeply and still have to walk away from them. She understands that power without wisdom is just destruction, and wisdom without compassion is just cruelty. She's still figuring out the rest. The crowd murmurs appreciation. Coins clink into a cup. People drift toward the door, carrying the story with them. But a few remain, wanting to talk, wanting to share their own stories of difficult mothers or impossible choices, or the courage it took to choose themselves over family expectation. Seren listens to them all, adds their stories to her collection, offers what comfort or perspective she can. An old man tells her about leaving his father's farm to become a clerk, how his father never spoke to him again, how he still wonders if learning to read and write was worth losing his family. A young mother talks about defying her parents to marry for love, about the years of silence that followed, about the grandchild her parents will never meet because pride is stronger than affection. A merchant describes choosing his business over his brother's needs, how success tastes like ash when the people you love aren't there to share it. Each story is different, but they all circle the same truth. Love isn't always enough. Sometimes you have to choose between loving someone and becoming yourself. Both choices have costs. Neither is wrong. Both hurt. The common house empties slowly until only a handful remain. The dedicated drinkers and the lonely ones who have nowhere better to be. Seren is gathering her things, preparing to find whatever corner she's been offered for the night when she feels it. A change in the air, a prickling at the back of her neck, the sense of being watched by eyes that see more than they should. She turns slowly, and there, in the darkest corner where firelight barely reaches, sits a figure in a hooded cloak. The figure has been there all night. Seren realizes, present but invisible, listening but not participating, witnessing but not engaging. Now the figure rises and moves forward into the light, and Seren's breath catches in her throat because she knows that walk, knows the way this person moves like water over stone, knows the presence that fills a room without effort. Mother. The word escapes as barely a whisper, but Morgan hears it. She pushes back her hood, and her face is different than Seren remembers. Older? Yes. 5 years have left their marks, but also softer somehow, less sharp, less guarded. The rage that used to burn in her eyes has banked to coals, still present but contained, under control rather than controlling her. She looks at her daughter, and something complicated moves across her face. Grief and pride and regret and recognition, all tangled together until they're indistinguishable from each other. You tell my story more kindly than I deserve. Her voice is the same, low and certain, but there's a weariness in it that wasn't there before. A weight of years spent alone with nothing but memory and regret for company. Seren's heart hammers so hard she can feel it in her throat. She hasn't seen her mother since that night in Camelot, hasn't heard her voice or felt her presence or known if she was alive or dead. And now here she is, materialized from shadow like she always does, and Seren doesn't know what to feel. Relief and fear and anger and love all swirling together into something too complicated to name. Why are you here? Morgan moves closer and Seren can see details now. Her mother's hands, those capable hands that taught her everything, are marked with new scars, with the evidence of work and magic and survival. Her clothes are worn but clean, practical rather than dramatic. She looks less like a legend and more like a person, someone who's been living rather than just existing, someone who's been learning things the hard way. To hear my daughter's voice, to see what she became, to understand if I destroyed her or if she survived me. The words hang between them, and Seren finds herself unable to speak, unable to process that her mother is here, is real, is saying things that sound almost like acknowledgement of fault, almost like growth, almost like the beginning of something that might eventually become reconciliation or at least understanding. Morgan doesn't wait for a response. She continues, words coming faster now, as if she's been holding them in for years and they're finally escaping despite her attempts at control. I've been following your travels, not closely, not intrusively, but hearing reports, listening to the stories people tell about the young woman who tells all sides, who refuses to make anyone the villain. At first, I was furious. I thought you were betraying me all over again, telling the world that I was wrong, that my pain wasn't justified, that Arthur deserved sympathy. But then I kept listening, and I realized you weren't betraying me. You were seeing me more clearly than I've ever seen myself. You were telling the truth, the real truth, which is that I was hurt and angry, and I let that hurt and anger consume everything good in me until there was nothing left but the need for revenge. Seren finally finds her voice, and it comes out stronger than she expected. You trained me to be a weapon. You shaped my entire life around destroying Arthur. You never saw me as a person, only as a tool for your vengeance. Morgan flinches, but doesn't deny it. You're right, I did. And it was the worst thing I've ever done, and I've done terrible things. I took my daughter, my precious child, and I tried to make her into an extension of my will instead of letting her become herself. And when you refused, when you showed more courage and wisdom than I'd ever possessed, I cast you out. I called you weak. I said you were dead to me. And for 5 years I've lived with that choice, with the knowledge that I destroyed the last good thing in my life because I couldn't let go of my hatred for a man who didn't even remember to hate me back. The confession hangs in the air, and Seren feels tears burning behind her eyes but refuses to let them fall because she's not sure what they mean, not sure if this is the beginning of healing or just another manipulation, another attempt to draw her back into orbit around her mother's pain. How do I know you mean it? How do I know this isn't just another strategy, another way to use me? Morgan's smile is sad and knowing. You don't. You can't. That's what I destroyed between us when I chose revenge over love. Trust, once broken that badly, doesn't repair easily or perhaps at all. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not here to ask you to come back to me, to take me back, to pretend the last 5 years didn't happen. I'm here because I needed you to know that you were right. About everything. About Arthur. About me. About the choice you made. You saved me that night, even though I was too consumed by rage to see it. You stopped me from doing something I couldn't come back from crossing a line that would have destroyed whatever small piece of humanity I had left. Seren feels something crack open in her chest, some tight knot of pain she's been carrying for 5 years starting to loosen. That doesn't fix what you did. That doesn't erase 20 years of being raised as a weapon, of believing my only purpose was your revenge, of losing you because I chose to be myself instead of what you wanted. I know. Morgan's voice is barely a whisper now. And I'm not asking it to, I'm just asking if you'll sit with me. Here, now, and let me tell you my version of the story. Not the one I've been telling myself for 20 years, but the true one. The one I've finally been able to face in your absence. The one where I loved your father and sent him away because I was afraid of softness. Where I loved Arthur and couldn't forgive him for being human and making human mistakes. Where I loved Avalon and got him killed because I couldn't accept that the world was changing and the old ways were dying regardless of what any of us did. Where I loved you and tried to make you carry all my pain because I was too weak to set it down myself. Seren looks at her mother, really looks at her, and sees something she's never seen before. Vulnerability, uncertainty, hope that's terrified to exist, but exists anyway. This isn't the Morgan le Fay of legend, the powerful sorceress who never doubts and never bends. This is just a woman named Morgan who made terrible mistakes and lost everything and somehow found the courage to admit it, to seek out the daughter she disowned, to offer not excuses but acknowledgement. It's not redemption. It's not even close to redemption, but it's a beginning. It's the first tiny crack in the armor, the first small step towards something that might eventually become reconciliation, or at least the ability to exist in the same space without it destroying them both. Seren pulls out a chair and gestures for her mother to sit. The movement is careful, uncertain, but it's an invitation nonetheless. Tell me the true story, not the version you needed to believe to survive. Not the legend, just the truth, however complicated and painful and human it is. Morgan sits, and for a moment she just looks at her daughter, and there's something in her face that might be gratitude, or might be relief, or might just be the overwhelming weight of finally being seen clearly and not running away from it. Then she begins to speak, and her voice is different than Seren has ever heard it, stripped of artifice and control and the careful construction of self that she's maintained for decades. She sounds like a person instead of a legend. She sounds real. She tells about being young and terrified when Arthur became king, about trying to protect a boy who suddenly carried the weight of a kingdom on shoulders that weren't ready for it. She tells about falling in love with Avalon and how that love was mixed with desperation, with the need to prove that the old ways could still triumph, that magic could still shape the world. She tells about the plot and how it spiraled out of control, how what started as a plan to advise Arthur more forcefully became an attempt to replace him. How pride and fear and grief over the dying world all tangled together until she couldn't tell which feelings were hers and which were just reaction to loss she couldn't process. She tells about watching Avalon die and how something in her broke that day. How she spent 20 years building a story where she was blameless because actually examining her own choices would have meant admitting she helped destroy what she loved. And she tells about Seren, about finding out she was pregnant and deciding to keep the child because maybe this would be something pure, something untouched by all the pain and complication about raising her daughter in isolation because she was terrified the world would corrupt her the way it had corrupted everything else. About teaching her magic and loving her fiercely, and also God's help her, seeing her as a chance for revenge, as a tool that could accomplish what Morgan herself couldn't anymore. About the slow, insidious way that love and manipulation became indistinguishable. About how she convinced herself that preparing Seren for vengeance was the same as preparing her for life. About how she never even questioned whether she had the right to shape another person's existence around her own pain. The words pour out and Seren listens, not interrupting, not offering comfort or condemnation, just bearing witness to the complicated truth of how love can become poison when mixed with grief. How the best intentions can create terrible outcomes when the person holding them can't see past their own pain. When Morgan finally stops speaking, the fire has burned low and the common house is empty, except for them. Everyone else having drifted away to give them privacy, or perhaps just to escape the intensity of whatever is happening between mother and daughter. Seren sits with the story, letting it settle, letting herself feel all the complicated things it brings up. Anger at being used, sadness for the years lost, understanding of how pain distorts perception, recognition that her mother is actually trying, to be better than she was. She reaches across the table and takes her mother's hands, the first voluntary touch between them in 5 years. It's tentative, careful, could be withdrawn at any moment, but it's real. I can't forgive you yet. Maybe I never will fully. You hurt me in ways that still ache when I think about them. You treated me like a possession instead of a person. You said things that can't be unsaid, but she pauseth, making sure the words are right, making sure she means them. I can hear you. I can witness that you're trying to be different, to understand what you did wrong, to grow past the person you were. And maybe that's enough for now. Maybe we don't need forgiveness yet. Maybe we just need this, the ability to sit together and tell true stories, to see each other clearly without illusion or denial. Maybe that's where healing starts. Not with erasing the past, but with being honest about it. Morgan's eyes are wet, and she doesn't try to hide it. Doesn't try to maintain the image of the powerful sorceress who never shows weakness. She just squeezes Seren's hand and nods, because words would break her right now, would release something she's been holding back for years. They sit like that for a long time, hands clasped across the scarred wooden table in an anonymous common house in a village neither of them will remember. And something fragile begins to knit itself together between them. Not trust, not yet. Not the easy love of before, which was never that easy anyway, which was always complicated by Morgan's need to control and Seren's need to be seen. But something, the beginning of something, the possibility that maybe eventually they can be in each other's lives again, not as mother and weapon, not as teacher and tool, but as two separate people who share blood and history and pain and are learning slowly to share something better too. When they finally part, as dawn begins to gray the windows, Morgan asks one more question. Will you tell this story, the true one, about us, about tonight? Seren considers, weighs the question carefully. Eventually, when I understand it better myself, when I can tell it without making either of us the hero or the villain, when I can show all the complexity and pain and the tiny, fragile hope that maybe broken things can learn to exist beside each other even if they can't be fully repaired. Yes, eventually, I'll tell it. Morgan nods, pulls her hood up, prepares to disappear back into the world. Before she goes, she turns back one final time. I'm proud of you for being braver than I ever was, for choosing truth over loyalty, for becoming someone who sees all sides and refuses to let hatred be the final word. You're extraordinary, and you became that despite me, not because of me. That's the story I wish I could rewrite, but stories don't work that way. We can only write the next chapters better. Then she's gone, melted into morning shadow, and Seren is alone again, but differently alone than before. She's alone with the knowledge that her mother is out there somewhere, trying to be better, learning to carry her pain without letting it poison everything she touches. She's alone with the fragile beginning of reconciliation that might grow or might shatter, but exists nonetheless. She's alone with new stories to tell, new truths to weave into her collection. She gathers her things and prepares to take to the road again, to continue her traveling, to keep collecting the complicated, messy human truths that make up the real world beneath all the legends and simplifications. And as she walks out into the morning with the sun just breaking over the horizon, she thinks about the story she'll tell someday about a mother and daughter who hurt each other and broke apart and maybe, just maybe, are finding their way towards something that might eventually become healing. It's not a simple story. It's not a satisfying story in the way legends are satisfying, with clear villains defeated and heroes triumphant. But it's a true story, which means it's messy and painful and complicated and real. And that's the only kind of story worth telling. The only kind that actually helps people understand their own messy, painful, complicated real lives. So she'll carry it with her. This story's still being written, and someday, when the ending is clearer, she'll share it. We'll offer it to whoever needs to hear that broken relationships don't have to stay broken forever, that people can change, that truth is always more important than comfort, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself even when that choice costs you everything, and then be willing to reconsider that choice when the person you've walked away from shows up. Having done the hard work of becoming someone new,